There are feelings you recognize instantly, but can barely explain when someone asks what is wrong. They sit somewhere between nostalgia, loneliness, awe, longing, dread, and comfort.
And the strange thing is that once you finally hear the right word, the feeling suddenly becomes easier to hold.
Psychologists call part of this emotional granularity, the ability to tell one feeling apart from another.
Research on affect labeling suggests that putting feelings into words can change how we process them. So this is not just a list of pretty words.
This is a tour of the emotional rooms most of us have visited without knowing their names.
The first feeling to understand is called sonder. It can hit while you are stopped in traffic, looking through another car window for half a second. Suddenly, that stranger is not background noise anymore.
They have childhood memories, private fears, people they miss, and plans you will never know about. Sonder is the sudden realization that every passerby is living a life as vivid and complicated as yours.
It feels huge because your mind briefly tries to imagine 8 billion inner worlds at once.
And then your brain quietly admits that it cannot hold all of that.
The next feeling is hiraeth, a deeper form of longing. Hiraeth is not ordinary nostalgia because it reaches further.
It is the ache for a home you cannot truly return to.
The place may still exist, but the version of you who belonged there is gone.
People feel hiraeth for an old neighborhood, the start of a relationship, or a summer that seemed endless.
It is grief without a single disaster, because nothing exploded. Everything just moved on.
That is why hiraeth feels so hard to explain. Then there is limerence, the crush that takes over. Limerence is what happens when a crush turns into a mental weather system. You barely know the person, but your brain keeps refreshing them like a page that will not load.
Psychologist Dorothy Tenev coined the term in her work on romantic obsession and uncertainty.
What limerence wants most is not just the person, but proof that the feeling is returned.
That is why every tiny signal becomes evidence.
A fast reply becomes hope. A slow reply becomes disaster, and your nervous system acts like it is solving a crime. The next feeling is kenopsia, an emptiness with echoes.
Kenopsia is the eerie feeling of a place built for crowds when the crowd is gone.
A school hallway during summer break can feel almost haunted, even if nothing supernatural is happening.
The chairs, signs, counters, and hallways all say people are supposed to be here.
Their absence becomes so obvious, it feels like a presence.
Kenopsia is not just emptiness. It is the after-image of human life. Then comes chrysalism, the comfort created by a storm. Chrysalism is the strange comfort of being indoors while a storm makes the outside world unreachable. The rain does not simply decorate the feeling. It builds the wall that lets your body finally relax. The world keeps moving out there, but for once, you have permission to stay still. That is why some people crack the window just to hear the storm better. Now comes vellichor, the mood of second-hand places. Vellichor is the atmosphere of used bookstores and second-hand objects with invisible pasts. Every book has already belonged to someone else's life. A note in the margin becomes proof that a stranger once paused on the same sentence. The object has moved on, but it still carries the weight of where it has been. Vellichor is gentle, but it reminds you that everything changes hands eventually. The next feeling is monachopsis, subtle social misalignment. Monachopsis is the low-level feeling of being out of place, even when nobody is rejecting you. You smile at the right moments, answer politely, and still feel 1 degree misaligned with the room. It is not shyness, because you may be talking just fine. It feels more like your inner frequency does not match the room's frequency.
Somewhere, you imagine, there must be a room where nothing has to be translated.
That quiet search is part of monachopsis as well. Then there is mauerbauertraurigkeit. It means the sadness of building walls between yourself and other people.
A friend invites you out, and before you understand why, you invent a reason not to go.
The lonely part is that you get exactly what you chose. But even then, being alone does not feel like freedom.
It feels like a reflex that protected you from closeness and punished you with isolation.
Anemoia comes next, the ache for borrowed memories.
Anemoia is nostalgia for a time you never lived. You see old photographs, old home movies, or washed-out footage, and something in you wants to go there. But what you are missing is not reality itself.
You are missing an edited version of reality.
The past becomes a screen where you project simplicity. That is why anemoia can feel sweet and suspicious at the same time.
Next is occhiolism, the shock of feeling very small. Occhiolism is the uncomfortable awareness of how small your life is compared with everything else. There are billions of people alive right now, all inside their own urgent story.
The universe is so large that the numbers stop feeling like numbers.
And yet your brain can still spend all day replaying one awkward sentence from last Thursday. Occhiolism can feel freeing, terrifying, or both in the same breath.
It is the vertigo of suddenly seeing the whole map and your tiny pin on it.
Finally, there is onism, the ache of one life. Onism is the frustration of being trapped in one body, one place, and one life.
Every choice you make opens one door and closes 100 others.
One city becomes your city, which means thousands of other cities become the cities you never lived in. The internet makes onism sharper because it shows you proof of all the lives you are not living.
It is incredible to see so much possibility and painful to know you cannot enter most of it.
Onism is the ache of being here while knowing how much elsewhere exists.
These words are not all clinical diagnoses,
and many were coined to name feelings we already had. But that does not make these words useless at all.
A word can turn a fog into a shape. And once a feeling has a shape, it becomes a little less lonely. So if one of these words felt uncomfortably familiar, that may be the point. Sometimes the feeling was never strange, it was just unnamed.